All right, today I want to talk about a concept that just been kind of getting reaffirmed to me, something I'd seen a while ago, but it's getting reaffirmed to me again, which is that your breakthrough lies in a progression or a series of sequential steps. A lot of times we get caught up in this thinking that there's going to be this one aha breakthrough moment, and sometimes that happens. But what usually happens is that leading up to that moment, there is a series of sequential steps that get you to a place of leading to a breakthrough. And a lot of times we don't see that process when we look at it. But it could be with your health. You want to get in better shape, or you want to do better with your nutrition, or you want to do better with your finances, or you want to do better in your marriage, or you have a business and you're trying to grow your business. You're trying to figure out what's the one thing I need to do to grow the business. The answer probably is that it lies in a sequential order of steps. The Bible talks about God orders our steps. So everything that God does, there are steps and progressions. It talks about, I was just listening to a message by Jerry Savelle a little while ago, talking about the law of progression, talking about, when seeds produce, you plant a seed, you don't expect to harvest the very next day, but when seeds produce, first you get the blade shows up, then you get the ear of the corn, then the whole corn in the full ear, and then you get your harvest from there. But there are progressive steps in things that need to take place. So for example, we see this all the time in the world of fitness. People come in and they want to jump straight to the more advanced things, and they want to bypass all the steps that they need to take to get to the more advanced things. So learning to master the technique and learning to master the fundamentals and getting in basic shape and working on your flexibility, and they want to skip all these steps and jump straight to the more advanced things. But the key, remember, there is a steps of progression in everything that you do. So whether you're trying to build a business, or to get better at marketing, or in your health, or in your marriage, what is the one thing that's going to get it all turned around? Number one, having a vision of where you're wanting to go, and then breaking it down. All right, what are the sequential steps? Now, a lot of times, remember this, you can have all of the parts in place, okay? But sometimes just rearranging the parts is what causes the breakthrough. So a lot of times, there's this verse in Ecclesiastes, there's nothing new under the sun. A lot of times, if you spent time and you're working on all the steps and you're gathering all the pieces, and now it becomes putting them in the proper sequential order. So not only do you have to have all of the pieces laid out and all the steps there, but you have to have them in the proper sequential order. So as an example, coal and diamonds. Okay, coal and diamonds have all the exact same parts, but just the order of how they're connected are all rearranged. It's all the same parts, just rearranged, and one is coal versus one is diamonds. And so just rearranging the things in your life, rearranging the order in which you do things. So if you have an area, we're getting ready for New Year's right now, and I'm getting ready to record this. We're about a couple weeks away from New Year's. And a lot of people have a lot of goals, things they want to accomplish for the new year. I want you to be thinking, what are the sequential steps? What is the first step that I need to take? We always need to begin with the end in mind. So I set an end goal out there of where I'm trying to go, and what are the sequential steps that I need to take to break down to get to that goal? Okay, maybe it's, use an example with your fitness. So typically the path that we take with clients is we want you to master, number one, being consistent, okay? Showing up more regularly, because no matter what you do, if you're not consistent, you're not going to get results over the long term. So number one, showing up consistently, and you don't have to go crazy. The first step is let's master your technique and getting better at bodyweight exercises. So let's master things like bodyweight squats, push-ups, and pull-ups and sit-ups. Let's get really good at those. That's the first step, okay? From there, let's progress on to the next step. Let's get stronger with the weights. Let's progress into, getting stronger with the weights and working on a little bit of conditioning, getting cardiovascularly in shape, a little bit of flexibility. These are the steps. We create some balance as we do that. Only then do we start to add in, initially, there's probably not a whole lot of variety. So people tend to want to jump to a lot of variety in the early on. You don't need a lot of variety early on. You need to master the basics, okay? So when I was in college, I played college baseball. I was on a team that was, won a whole bunch of championships in a row. And one of the things we had daily habituals, little drills that we would do every single day. So recently, I was trying to apply this to playing the guitar. I asked my brother, who's a very good guitar player, I said, I'm trying to learn the guitar. What is the fundamental step? Where do I start? What is the first step? He said, well, you need to do two things. You need to get really good at playing the major chords, like C, G, F, play the major chords. And I want you to start practicing the C major scale. So, just the scale like na, 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 na. Just playing that over and over every single day. It will work on getting your fingers in the right place. It will teach you, what spots on the guitar make different sounds and these types of things. But just do those two things. That's the first step. And then we can start stacking stacking one thing on top of another. One of the principles that God uses in everything he does is he uses what I call stackable models. So this is the way that your DNA is built. It's built in stackable models. So your DNA only has 4 options. It has 4 building blocks. But the way that you stack them and the way that you order them, the sequential ordering, is what gives, we have only 4 options, but you look at all the variability among people today. Every single person is unique, all coming from 4 basic building blocks, okay? And you take those building blocks and you stack them in different sequential ordering, and you get all this variation among people, okay? So the way you stack things changes the results. So the ordering of how you do things and the way that you stack one thing on top of another. Take this step and this step and this step. So a lot of times, God will try to show you something. God will begin to show you something, and you'll be like, well, I don't know how to get to that end goal. And the truth is, in every revelation and every vision and every goal that you're going after, there's going to be a sequential ordering of steps to get you to that place. It's not going to be that any one of those steps got you there. It's going to be the sequential ordering of one step stacked on top of the next, stacked on top of the next, stacked on top of the next. And the ordering of that is going to create something unique and move you towards whatever that vision or whatever that goal, whatever that word that God spoke over you. A lot of times it will be, he'll give you an insight and revelation. You don't know, you don't understand what to do with it. There's been several times with me where he showed me, for example, I was writing my book, Cracking Heaven's Code, and he began to show me some cool math things about how, you get to the number 8, on our Abundant Life Blueprint, there's these 7 rooms in the house, and there's balancing pairs, and each one, you add them together, you get to 8, which is the number for Jesus. And I'm like, wow, this is really cool, but I have no idea what to do with it. I don't know how that practically applies into anything, really. But little by little, one step after another, I began to unpack it and began to see, all right, this is how we actually apply this into our lives, okay? So a lot of times he'll show you something, but you don't know what to do with it yet, okay? And he'll take you step by step by step by step, and he'll start to unfold it, and you'll start stacking one layer on top of another layer, and you'll begin to unfold it. Now, one of the other things about stacking, I'm getting a little bit off topic here, but we talk about stacking. It's an interesting thing I've learned about God. The Bible talks a lot about how, he's laid a foundation and we're building upon that foundation. Jesus Christ laid that foundation for us, and it says that we're supposed to be building on top of that foundation. So God is in the business of, he lays the foundation, okay? He's the beginning and the end. He gets the foundation in place. And then once you have a solid foundation in place, he gives us the ability to go in and start building on top of that. So, the Bible talks about at some point, what we build on top of that will be tested. If it's made of precious stones and things like that, it will be tested by fire. So it will survive through the fire. But if it's made of wood and hay and stubble and these types of things, it will be burned down and we'll have to start over again. Okay? So what we are stacking, if we are stacking in the proper sequential order, it will last, and it will lead us to a breakthrough, and it will lead us to things that are truly lasting change. But if we get the steps out of order, we don't follow the right progressions, these types of things, we try to jump and skip steps, then we're not going to get the same results that we're after. But keep in mind this, God has progressive steps of order, sequential stacking of steps, layering of steps. So God likes to start small, work from the inside out. So he's going to begin layering one step on top of another, stack, 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 stack. And he's going to create something individualized for you that the world has never seen before, because it's unique to you, because the way that you stack things is going to be slightly different than anybody else. Now, the other part of this is that when we get into stacking DNA, the way you stack is what creates uniqueness, okay? The way you stack things one on top of another is what creates uniqueness. So there's a certain foundation in any skill sets that you need. For example, in the guitar, I'll go back to that. There's a certain foundation that is always needed. So let's say play the scales, be able to play all the chords, be able to strum properly. There's a certain foundation that's needed. But beyond that, the individual skills that you start to stack on top of that, there's all kinds of ways to play the guitar. The individual skills that you stack on top of that become unique to you. So for example, in the fitness, I would say the foundation in fitness, be able to move well, master the technique on the exercises, have a basic level of strength and conditioning and being able to move your own body weight. Above that, okay, you can start to stack on things that are going to help you more customize towards your individual goals. Maybe you want to run a marathon, maybe you want to be a powerlifter, maybe you want to be a bodybuilder. The foundation is always the same. It never changes, but then how you stack on top of that is going to be one of the biggest things that's going to create the variability that's unique to you. Okay, so 2 things. There's a foundation that is always the same for everybody, because Jesus is the foundation, but in any skill set, that you want to learn. There's always a foundation. And you begin to stack one thing on top of that. I'm a little bit going off the top of my head right here because we got into some different things. But one of the other concepts I find very interesting is that, we look at the 7 feasts of Israel. My first book that I wrote, 7 Days with Jesus, we talk about the 7 feasts of Israel. I find it very interesting. In that book, we talk about foundations are always 4 parts. Okay, there's always 4 parts to the foundation, and we look at in the 7 feasts of Israel. So Passover, the first 4 feasts: Passover, unleavened bread, first fruits, and Pentecost are the first 4 feasts. Those feasts were all fulfilled already. Okay, they were already done, and they laid the foundation. And that Jesus died, was resurrected. He sows His Spirit back into our hearts, and we've been given the Holy Spirit to navigate us, to guide us, and to be in tune with God's timing and His plans for us. We have the Teacher with us. Those first 4 parts are done. Now, when we get into 5 and 6, number 5 in my book, Cracking Heaven's Code, we start to talk about number 5 is where we begin to stack. Okay, the numerical stuff. We begin to stack one thing on top of another. We begin to frame out the house. 4 parts in laying the foundation. Then we have to build out and frame out the house, and that's when we begin to stack one thing on top of another. But it's interesting to me. The first 4 feasts were fulfilled. God has left the last 3 feasts to be undone. Okay? He left them undone. He left them some room for us to build on top of that foundation. He left them some room for us to begin stacking one on top of another and to build and to create our own unique version that's unique to us. And so He laid the foundation for us. And we have a place of taking action and beginning to stack one thing on top of another. I'm beginning to get a little bit off topic here, but I hope this helps somebody who's out there. But these are just some of the things that I've been thinking about the last little bit. But this idea of He left some of these feasts undone. Eventually they will be fulfilled, but He left them undone for a little while. Okay? To give us some room to get in, to create, to take action, and to obey, and to do the things that He's called us to do, and to really get in and start to build. He put the foundation in place. Now we got to get in and start to take action and build.